Hi, fourth graders. Welcome to week 2 of our e-learning adventure. Today's lesson is going to return us to topic 9. So we're going to be doing 9-3, estimating quotients for greater dividends. As I mentioned in last week's videos, we are going to be bouncing back and forth because the skills in topic 9 and the skills in topic 10 are very closely related. This is also just a friendly reminder to please make sure that in Google Classroom you are completing your assignments and that you're also pressing submit when you're finished. Miss Pattis and I are looking to make sure that everyone's keeping up with their work, and sometimes it's hard to tell who's ready for us to take a look at their work if they have not yet pressed submit. So please take a look at Google Classroom this week, and as you complete assignments, make sure you are pressing submit. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Today's learning goal says, I can estimate quotients of multi-digit division problems using multiplication facts and place value concepts. So let's take the example. You'll also find this on your reteaching. 294 divided by 5. I want to find about how much that quotient would be. I can actually use the equal sign and make it a little bit squiggly, and that will represent the word about. So whenever you see that in math, that's what it's referring to. So I'm going to look at my divisor and think about if I were to have multiples of this number, what multiples would I find? So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on. I'm then going to look at my dividend. My dividend, 294, is going to get rounded first by changing the ones place to a 0. Then I'm going to focus on just the first 2 digits, 29, and I'm going to think about what number is close to 29 that's divisible by 5. So I could use a compatible number, I can say 25, or I could round and use 30. Both would be acceptable, however, going to 30 would be a little bit more accurate because 29 and 30 are closer than 25 and 29. So in this case, I'm going to change the 29 to a 30. I do not change my divisor. And now I'm going to divide. One thing to be careful of is this is not going to have 2 zeros in the quotient. It's only going to have 1. Here's why. The first 0 is really a part of 30. So when I do 30 divided by 5, that's 6. And then it's this 0 in the ones place. That's the 0 that I'm going to attach. So sometimes just because you see two zeros in the dividend doesn't always mean there's going to be 2 zeros in the quotient. You probably came across that in 9-1 as you were practicing, so this is just a friendly reminder. So I can say that 294 divided by 5 is about 60. Let's try a couple other problems to help us make sure that we have this idea down. Okay, so here's example 1. Let's say I'm dividing 552 divided by 9, and I want to think about how much would that be. So I'm going to be thinking of multiples of 9. I change my ones place to a 0, and then I'm going to think about what number is close to 55 that's divisible by 9. So in this case, I'm going to use 54. That's a compatible number. The reason why I chose 54 is because 54 divided by 9 is 6, and then I can attach my 0. In this case, I am going to have 1 0 in my dividend and 1 in my quotient. I don't have to worry about the zeros like I did in the previous example. So 552 divided by 9 is about 60. The reason why I use the equal sign here is because 540 divided by 9 is exactly 60, whereas in the top part it says 552 divided by 9 is about 60. If I were to actually do the division, the quotient would not be 60, it would be close to it. Let's try another example. So in example 2, I have 281 divided by 3. I want to find about how much that's equal to. So just as I did before, I'm going to look at the divisor, 3. I'm going to think about multiples of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on. I'll change my ones place to a 0 in my dividend, and then think about, what numbers are close to 28 that I can divide by 3? Well, I could go down to 27, or I could go up to 30. Again, both would be correct estimates. However, a more accurate estimate would be if I went to 27, because that's closer to 28. I know that 27 divided by 3 is 9, and then there's a 0 in my dividend, so there's a 0 in my quotient. So 281 divided by 3 is about 90. We can actually use this same method or the same strategy to help us with larger dividends and larger quotients too. So in this particular example, I'm actually going to have a 4-digit dividend. So let's say I have 2,943, and I'd like to divide that by 7. Okay, same concept. I'm going to think about my divisor, 7, multiples of 7, 7, 14, 21, 28, and so on. This time, though, I'm going to change the ones and the tens place. I'm going to change both of them to 0. Then I can focus on the first 2 digits of my 4-digit dividend. So 29 is close to 28. The reason why I chose 28 is because it's divisible by 7. Divisible, as you've heard before, is just another way of saying it can be divided by. So 28 is divisible by 7, and in fact, 28 divided by 7 is 4. I have 2 zeros in my dividend, so I'm going to have 2 zeros in my quotient. So 2,943 is about 400. Remember, just like last week, you can always pause the video, rewind, you can watch it again from the beginning, you can rewatch other videos. The more videos that I post basically just means the more resources you have to look over to help you as you're working independently. Let's try one more example before we move into a word problem. So example number 4, we're going to use 3,124, and we want to divide that by 6. We want to find about how much the quotient is. So thinking of multiples of 6, change the ones and tens places to 0. Look at 31, the first 2 digits of the dividend. 31, I could go down to 30. I could go up to 36. 30 and 36 are both multiples of 6. Based on what you've learned so far, you know that 3,000 would be better, or in this case, 30 would be better because it's closer to 31. 30 divided by 6 is 5. And here's a perfect example. I'm not going to have 3 zeros in my quotient. If I did that, like this, I would be wrong. There's no way that 3,000 divided into smaller groups would give me groups of 5,000. So I'm not going to have that 0. I'm just going to have the 2 zeros for my dividend and 2 zeros in my quotient. So 3,124 divided by 6 is about 500. Okay, our last problem for today is a word problem. A lot of you have shared some great feedback with me that you want to be practicing more word problems. So this is a great opportunity to do so. Our word problem says, David is reading a book that has 168 pages. He reads about 9 pages a day. About how many days will it take for him to finish the book? So if we're going to use our great math strategies, we're going to notice that the important numbers are 9 and 168, and that the important labels we're looking for are pages a day. And we're also going to bring our attention to the word about. Notice it appears twice. That tells us for sure that we are estimating about and about. And then I'm going to put a star by my question. I'm looking to see about how many days will it take for him to finish the book. So my label is going to be days. I'm going to write out my number sentence or math equation. 168 divided by 9. I'm looking to see about how much that's equal to. I'm thinking of multiples of 9. I change my ones place to a 0, and then I think about 16. What number is close to 16 that's divisible by 9? Well, a multiple of 9 that's close would be 18. 18 divided by 9 is 2, and then I have 1 0 in my dividend, so I have 1 0 in my quotient. And then, of course, I'm going to write out that the label would be days. So if David's reading a book that's 168 pages long, and he's reading about 9 pages a day, it will take him about 20 days to finish the book. Okay, great job today. Mr. Garreau is excited to tell you his next joke. He's been working on it all weekend long, so I hope you have fun listening to it.
Hey, Mrs. Garreau, what do you call two friends that really like math?
I don't know. What?
Algebros.
Bye, 4th grade. See you tomorrow.
Bye, 4th graders.